release me from this lonely world. There is no hope, why don't you? For the blood, let me pass away.
When we're talking about the Death to All tribute tour over here, we just wanted to give you a little space as well to bring up, the fans up to speed on a couple of issues that I'm sure that, whether you can comment or not, no problem, but at least to get your take as much as we can. First of all, when we're talking about sweetrelief.org, I was actually, when we're talking to Paul, we wanted to know, how long has that partnership been established for between Sweet Relief, even, Chuck's family, the band, of course, as well. So can you give us a little more insight into that?
Basically, Chuck got sick, as everybody knows, and the illness wiped away his fortune. So contrary to the belief that Chuck never made any money in the music business, the fact is he actually did make money. He owned cars, he owned a beautiful home, but when the medical bills began to mount, he had to start selling stuff as he got sicker. So towards the end, there were auctions of instruments and stuff that people had donated and things like that. There were tribute concerts, and one of the things was this new group called Sweet Relief that helped American musicians who got sick or injured without medical insurance. So, of course, now all these years later, with a whole renaissance of the Death brand and the idea of putting Death to All together, last year I was asked, would you be interested in endorsing a charity? And of course, the natural charity would be Sweet Relief.
How has it worked out as far as the partnership?
Well, I mean, they believe in what we're doing, and of course, every time I have a chance to mention, every chance I have to mention Sweet Relief, I do, in trying to get people aware of Sweet Relief. And of course, I'm one of the moderators at Death Official on Facebook. Okay. So every now and then I'll put a little blurb about the cancer fund and watch people donate. And I always tell them, when you donate, mention Chuck. And that's sort of another way of a living memorial for him. And and all the new reissues, of course, say Sweet Relief on them. We hope that you'll reach into your pocket and donate a little to that particular charity. Because people said, well, he died of brain cancer, of pontine glioma. Do you want us to donate money to the Brain Institute, or whatever?
Absolutely.
And there's a million charities out there, but the one that we support is Sweet Relief. It makes the most sense.
And and they are very well supported as well. I mean, a lot of musicians do donate to them and promote them as well. So very, very well established organization.
I mean, they really do a great job. I mean, I live in Canada. I'm a Canadian. I don't know what it's like to get sick without help. I mean, I've gone through my own health stuff. I've had a kidney transplant, and I've fought blindness, and now I'm about to have one of my toes partially amputated right after I get off the tour from diabetes. Yeah. But I don't have to worry because I live in a place where we don't worry about that. So when I find out that musicians in the United States, some of them have no insurance and they can't get any help, I mean, it bothers me personally.
Absolutely.
And without getting political, of course, about
I understand.
The whole subject. So of course,
I feel free. They can't get very political.
Well, it's horrible to not at least be able to pay the bills when it comes to seeing a doctor. And I know so many American musicians. Well, I'm really sick. Well, there's a former member of Death, and I don't want to mention who it is, who himself is kind of sick, and it's not James Murphy, by the way. And he says stuff like, "I really need this one med, but I can't afford it." And I'm like, what? Well, when's the last time you saw your doctor? Well, it's been months. I just can't pay. So that's what Sweet Relief does. If you go to them and you say, I'm stricken with this illness and I don't have any money, they give. So if we can raise awareness of that, I think Chuck would think it was cool. So.
And this time around, you're coming from sort of a controversy from the first tour, if you will. And, whatever you can say, it's fine if you want to clear up that air of what is the current situation, because it's just really sad that people, however contested it may be, or however much we want to use the word allegedly or supposedly, but it's just wrong to play with the memory of somebody and basically not deliver something like charity help.
I can clear it up. Essentially,
and I know that it's a touchy.
Yeah, it is a touchy subject. I am a lawyer, and I'm only going to speak in absolute truths, basically. And that is that I owe a debt, in a sense, in the first place, to Sick Drummer magazine for creating the concept of Death to All. I mean, it was their idea. And they came to me and they said they had grandiose ideas, and we're going to do this thing, and it's going to be nationwide and blah, blah, blah. And I put a lot of faith in them. Then I went on the line by going to my partners, Chuck's mom and sister and nephew, and saying, well, there's a lot of drummers out there who support Sick Drummer magazine, and they've all vouched for these two guys. They've done drummer camps, and I'm like a dude, you know what I mean? And I said, well, sure. I was dealing with one guy first, and then he made agreements with me like, well, we'll do it this way, and this is what it will entail. And then all of a sudden I found out there was a partner in New York State, and he kind of took over, and then things were completely not as I'd agreed on. And I mean, at the end of the day, I hated to go public. I waited months to go public, and it was only after Beth went ballistic, really, because it was horrifying for her to believe that no money went to the charity. 5 shows that were practically sold out.
Still, this is the situation right now?
Yes. The situation is they haven't given $1 to the charity. Nothing. And
after their own statement on the webpage says that, of course.
And the fact is they gave rubber checks to the band members, and they didn't pay the agency. They didn't pay us. They paid us a very tiny little portion. They didn't pay the crew. I mean, 2 members of the crew got paid. So what's the truth behind Sick Drummer magazine? They're not fraudsters. They're probably the nicest guys on the planet. I feel badly for them in the sense that they bit off more than they could chew. And I want to set the record straight. They didn't rip off in the sense of diabolically planning to take money. But they kept saying to me, we've got it covered. We have a contingency. I said, well, what are you going to do because they made this idea that a certain percentage of a ticket would go to Sweet Relief. And I'm like, you can't do that when you don't really know what the expenses are going to be. Oh, yes, we can. We've got it covered. Well, do you have a contingency in case nobody shows up? What are you going to do if no one shows up? Well, we've got that covered. And I mean, there were 2 buses, 7 musicians from Death, plus 2 singers, frontmen. I mean, it was huge. What are you guys going to do? Don't worry about that. Because I said I'll put up my own money to be a partner to make sure, because I come from the school of promoting where before you promote a show, you put all the money on the table in case an act of God occurs and nobody shows up. You can still pay everybody.
Absolutely.
There's another kind of promoter, the gambler. The gambler doesn't have any money. He just contracts with everybody to do a show, and if no one shows up, he skips. And so what did they do? They wrote bad checks. And they knew darn well they had no money in the bank to satisfy those debts, and that's just plain wrong. And Chuck's name was used to sell tickets, and no money went to the charity, and that's a fact. Now, did I try to take Sick Drummer magazine or to sue them in their home ground? No. I want to get on with things.
Well, but that is part of focusing on the positive side of this. You're back.
Yeah.
You're doing it again, and you're doing it right.
Yeah.
You learn. You have a contingency plan of your own. You know that it's not a scam for fans. This new tour, any upcoming lineup, any upcoming tour.
We talked about it. Beth Schuldiner and I talked about it at length. Like, do we want this to happen again, especially in light of what happened with Sick Drummer? And we thought, the concept of Death to All is awesome.
Yep.
Bringing the music to a new generation of fans. I mean, look, those fans out there are kids, a lot of them. They're not old-timers who remember from back in the old days. These are kids that have just bought their first Death album. I met a kid out there who said to me, I'm saying kid, because he's young enough to be my kid.
It's okay, yeah.
But,
we're old enough to say kid.
Well, he said to me, I got into Death in 2006. And I'm like, 2006? So, look, Max Phelps, who's doing the front man part, was born the year I started managing Death. And there's this whole new generation of fantastic players, and they want to hear this music.
Absolutely.
And so I didn't think it was exploitive or,
No, but that's a very small minority.
A tiny amount of people said something like, well, you're milking the teat of the Schuldiner posse or whatever. And I
instead
just
of celebrating the music, the message, the legacy, you're making that's just.
I just say that's ridiculous.
Yes.
And I at first was one of those people when I was approached by Sick Drummer magazine from Anton from Sick Drummer. I was one of the. I didn't believe it was a good idea. He convinced me actually, which is again why I started it by saying I owe a debt in some way to Sick Drummer for starting the idea. I thought, what a hokey thing to have ex-members running around with the word death on a banner. I thought it's kind of cheesy, but we of course knew that there were death tribute bands and I support them. But then I started to think about it, and then after witnessing it and being at those 5 shows and feeling the vibe and feeling Chuck's vibe. I was there with Chuck's nephew at Orlando. I was there with Chuck's sister at Philadelphia, and we were crying. Because if you squinted your eyes a little, it was almost like being in the past. And with the guys that played with him on the records, it has a sense of legitimacy. So I just thought, well, I think it's time to do it again. And then approached my friends in the band and said, hey, want to do it? And they're like, yeah. So we tried to work out the logistical things, and here we are.
You're planning future lineups, future tours.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can tell us a little bit about that? What the second lineup is supposed to be about?
I think that the reason that Sick Drummer did so poorly last time, despite the fact that they were successful, was the spreading out of the gigs too far from each other. And it was a mess to have so many people on the road. It was just like the Village People times 3. It was just
too many.
Yeah. So I think that the idea when it came to fruition that maybe we'll take the Florida guys, and then the idea of working with Max as a frontman seemed legit because he's talented. The fact remained that it just seemed on paper that it would work. And the Cynic guys, of course, I love them and respect them. I'm their lawyer. We work together. Yep. And they said, well, Max, who tours with us, would be a great front guy because he's got the hair. And for me, that's really all that matters. Then he said he's also a really good guitar player. Okay, well, that's even better. And he can growl. So I thought, all right, we'll see if that works. So we made him do an audition. And he failed miserably, but we hired him anyway. So, and then of course
that's how it works, huh, Max?
And then as soon as it's over, I'm going to Europe with Gene Hoglan and Shannon and Bobby and Scott Clendenin, with doing it with Matt Harvey from Exhumed as the front guy. Okay. So as far as I'm concerned,
is that this the Dutch Festival in May?
Yeah, the NDF, Neurotic Death Fest.
Uh-huh.
So it proves that it's possible for us to mix and match musicians from the Death past. They'll all work together, either together collectively or in smaller groups. It all works. We can find new frontmen. It's not like we're cloning Chuck or anything like that. It is what it is. And I've not told one single frontman, what I want you to do is to study Chuck's mannerisms and tapes and make it exactly as if we're like a wax museum or some kind of Disney tribute or something. I want it to feel real for the fans, and as far as I'm concerned, if the front man is talented, then he can interpret it any way he wants. I mean, if he comes out and does a karaoke version with, I don't know, lipstick, and I maybe that wouldn't be cool, but I just told Max just keep the lipstick to a minimum, and the hair gel off your head.
And he did. It's sitting over there. It's like
so. So anyway, so yeah, I think it's a great idea that we could actually keep this going for a while. We may do it in the fall in Europe, and
Good.
maybe next year, I don't know, maybe we'll do it with all the guys again.
That's what it was being rumored, right? 2014, maybe kind of like an all-star.
But you know what? I'm not God. Well, all right, kind of, but I'm just one guy, and I have my practice. I'm a lecturer at university.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm only one guy trying to put everything together. It is what it is, and it's up to people's schedules. They've got a life of their own. They're not at my beck and call every time I need them for a death-related thing. They just come running. So if it's possible maybe to put everyone together next year, we'll do it. If not, maybe we'll do something else.
Yeah, it's a lot of logistics to actually, coordinate into one tour, into one show even, who does that when, where, what are they doing with the other bands, etc. So
look,
yes.
The main thing for me, besides the charity aspect of it, and that's a main part of it, is the legacy part of it.
Yeah.
Is that my job is to keep Chuck's name out there. Maybe we won't be able to put him in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Maybe I'm not that optimistic to be able to do something like that, but hell, he's in the Grammy Museum. We went there last April, and his Stealth guitar is in the Grammy Museum right now. And it was supposed to end in April, and they've just asked us to extend it to September. So, look, Whitney Houston, Chuck Schuldiner in the same museum, right? And that's amazing. So the whole idea is I want people to remember all of the genre creators, the Kiss, the Black Sabbath, all of these bands, and I want Death to be among the greatest bands ever and to be known, and that's the idea. And Death to All is yet another tool to promote Chuck and his legacy and the 7 studio albums.
And that is what it is, the music, the message, the legacy from the band and Chuck as well. And I'm paraphrasing you over here when you said, these tribute shows are not about money, not about money grabbing, or fan exploitation. This is about charity work. This is about bringing the message.
There's easier ways to make money, believe me, than losing sleep, stress over
and working your ass
Paul
off.
Masvidal's dietary habits and making sure that he, gets the right food. And you know what I mean? Like, to accommodate everybody like this, there's easier ways to do it. If all you're trying to do is make cash.
And like I said, nobody's trying to replace Chuck. This is just Death to All, basically what it is.
I just say, fuck you to the people who throw those kinds of. They obviously don't know me, and they don't know the people that I'm dealing with.
It's an easy way, an ignorant way to actually just go against the system and just be, they think they're being purists about the band, and in this case, you're very far away from being
they're
purists.
The same people that say,
band.
it wasn't really Death without Cam Lee. You know what I mean? Or how could you replace this guy on that album? It's not really Death anymore. Or that's just lame.
How come this musician's not on? Well, look at the list of people who played in Death. So yeah.
Well, look, I'm friends with every former member of Death, and I don't think anybody has a bad thing to say about Chuck, and they certainly don't have a bad thing to say about Chuck's catalog. Absolutely. It is what it is, and Chuck progressed, and it was never about money. It was never about money for Chuck. For sure.
Absolutely.
So I think we're doing something that had to be done, and we're enjoying it and having fun. It's awesome because I traveled on the tour bus with these guys when we were all a lot younger. No, I haven't gotten any older, but they're the hair's challenged and everything's different now for them. So
I used to have long hair, man.
Yeah,
I'm just fucking old.
One day it's gone, but the fact is the friendships remain, and we can sit on the bus and, you remember that stupid time in Cleveland, or whatever, and that's what camaraderie is about. That's what metal is all about.
Absolutely.
It's like the whole brotherhood thing, and it's not cliche. It's actually true.
Absolutely. So hey, Eric, thank you so much, man, for giving
Metal
us a little bit of
Brothers
your time.
Unite.
from me.